Hey guys, welcome back again. We are on video 7 of the Q&A series, 7 of Who Knows, you guys, not me, because it'll be in the title, but not my head. So, we're just going to keep going, 10 more minutes on the clock, boom boom, let's do it. Sid Kudav, do you believe you have it in you to hit an 800-pound deadlift one day? Well, I certainly hope so, and I'm going to do everything within my ability to find out. That would be awesome. I think I can. I honestly do. And if not, if I didn't believe that, then why even try? I really think I can do it. So, fingers crossed, and it might be, 10 years down the line, but if I could hit it tomorrow, I'd do my best to give it a shot. Also, do you consider yourself to not have great genetics, but average? One of your older videos. If so, do you consider genetically gifted individuals as people like Connor Lutz and Mike Tuchscherer for bench deadlift, respectively? Okay. A while ago, people asked me what I thought about my own personal genetic potential, and I was honest with them when I said I don't think that I have crazy genetics. And I know that freaks people out. They are like, what do you mean? You do these lifts and you have these great... I talked to Jason Blaha, and I had a discussion on Facebook, back and forth, just messaging. And he said, you gotta stop telling people you don't have good genetics, because you obviously do. And to be completely honest, when I look at my family lineage and I look at the history of everyone in my family, where you get your genetics from, I don't see where that switch was. I don't see anybody who exhibited a great deal of strength. And maybe I was the sleeper in the family. Maybe it's the gene that no one else really pursued. But I also think that the numbers that I have reached and the numbers that these people have reached were the result of a long time of training. It was the result of a lot of work. And people say, well, I could lift my whole life and do everything right, and I never lift as much as Ben Rice. And I'm sorry if you think this makes me arrogant, but I say BS to that. I think you totally could. I think if anybody dedicated themselves to the pursuit of that for as long as I have, and had I don't think that I'm genetically, I don't think I have terrible genetics, but I do not believe there's anything that is genetically special about me physically that has allowed me to do this, because I don't know where it would come from. I don't know where in my lineage you could point to and say that that is where he gets his strength from. My parents are musically inclined, and that's where I genetically am inclined for musical type things, but I think it's a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out to point and say, well, that person's just genetically gifted. I think, in my case, I think there are other times, and I'm not going to use Connor and Michael as the examples that I'm going to use. I think physically I've seen it. I've seen some crazy genetic predisposition to leanness. My friends Michael Boardman and Josh Hittinger are two of the most jacked, leanest guys I know personally, and I have met a lot of people personally. These two do not currently compete, but I know for a fact they're not using any kind of androgens or anything like that, and they just work out, they eat well, and they look like they're 3 weeks away from a physique show stage year-round. And that, to me, is crazy. It's a combination of having the potential for it, the genetic potential for it, but also hard work and dedication. And there's only one thing you can change, which would be your hard work and your dedication. You can't change your genetics. So I guess my question then becomes, why bother trying to figure that out, and why bother trying to chalk that up to something, unless you're giving yourself a reason not to work harder because you don't think you can achieve those levels, which, if that's your prerogative, fine. But then why ask me if I think I can do a 800-pound deadlift? I think you need to have at least the amount of self-belief and self-confidence that it's worth trying for, instead of saying, well, they're just genetically gifted and that's the reason why they do these things. They do these things because they work really hard for them. And some people may have a little bit of an edge, but that shouldn't give you the excuse not to at least try to reach your own potential. I'm not sure if I even answered your question, but that's something that I constantly am hit with, and I'm not going to hide behind my genetics and say that's why I'm so good at things. I'm good at the stuff I do because I worked really hard for it for a long time, and I didn't cheat the whole time. I spent 14 years doing this. I have never tasted alcohol. I've never smoked anything. I've never taken illicit drugs. I have never gone out and partied and been irresponsible with the kinds of things I want, because this has been the focusing center of my life, and it's something that I use to get better. If you factor in those other things, the numbers and the production of the progress that I've had doesn't sound that extreme. It doesn't sound like some genetic anomaly. It doesn't sound like some drug-induced improvement. It sounds like the kind of thing that happens when you commit yourself fully to something for a long enough time that you actually see real progress from that. So that's my reasoning for it. And you know, Jason, I think you're awesome. I love you, man. But that's really how I feel about the genetics issue in regards to me personally. So that's that. I think you should make a video not only to live through the grind, but also becoming better at it. Continual pursuit of improvement positions while using the big three, I believe, is important. Like with lifters like Mike T, and talking about interpersonal development along with critical analysis of yourself to truly ascend and continue growing, which I think most lifters lack and then cannot reach the levels of those they look up to. To be completely honest, I think that the people who really truly want to be successful are the ones who are going to get there. If you have to rely on others for your motivation and for the way that you're going to do things, you're not going to be innovative enough to find your own personal best. And you have to allow yourself to risk failing and risk being wrong in that. You have to be able to commit yourself passionately enough to run the possibility that you'll get so good at something. And some people aren't. I suck at golf. I am awful at it. Every time I have tried to play, it has been a terrible experience for me and everyone around. And when I figured that out, I said, okay, maybe this is something. It's fortunate that I don't really love golf enough to want to pursue it and get better at it. I'm sure I could get better than I am, but maybe I'm not focused and committed enough to that thing to be able to improve to the level that I'd want to get at. And so it's one of those things that you have to follow your passions. And I guess I'm not completely sure what you want from the rest of this question. And I hope you don't feel like I'm trying to argue with you about this. These may have been a couple of triggers for me, and I get really passionate about talking about these particular topics because it's something that's so present in my life all the time, and people constantly, just almost discrediting what I'm doing or what others that have accomplished the things that I care about are doing by kind of shrugging it off and saying, well, just genetics, or just this, or just one factor, without looking over the entire scope of what is involved in the process. When it comes to the interpersonal development and all that stuff, I think that, again, is something that's really self-motivated. If you don't want to get better, I try my best. In the videos that I do, I try to pick topics that will be visceral or will create some sort of thoughtful activity for the people who watch them. But if you want to engage in these kind of things and you really want to learn and understand the stuff I'm talking about, or the stuff that people are talking about when they've gotten there, you have to be open to thinking a little differently, and you have to be open to listening to what the truth is behind what we're saying, not just the words themselves. You have to embrace the idea that you may have to kind of tear down into yourself and find the things that are keeping you from developing. And you have to be brutally honest. You have to be brutally stubborn in your pursuit of improvement. So those may sound like two opposing things, someone who's really honest or someone who's really stubborn. You have to want to succeed enough that you're going to keep pushing forward even when you find out that there's something that's not quite right in your method. And you have to be willing to change that based on the new information that you develop or figure out or come to those conclusions on yourself. So that was an entire 10 minutes just addressing this one question, but I think it's really important. Those things are something that, again, I'm pretty passionate about it just because that's the way I feel. And yeah, I hope that helped a little bit to understand what's going on in my mind when I go through these processes. And I'll do my best to continue giving people glimpses into what's going on with the mind and how to try to develop more as an all-around person and not just the technical aspects of improving on your squat, your bench press, and your deadlift. I think that what I want to do all the time is encourage all-around growth, because I don't think you can exist in a vacuum. I don't think that you, while focused attention to improving a single goal is really a great idea, I think that you need to live balanced in your life and have some sort of even approach, or else you're never going to be able to process what you've come to achieve. You're never going to be able to get there unless you are the best in the world, which when it comes to powerlifting, there is no real fair way to address that because of the differences in drug use, non-drug use, federation rules, all of those things, body weight. And you can say, oh, well, it's a Wilkie's method, but there's flaws in all of it. And there's no real way to become the best. Even if, you know, if you're Ed Cohen or if you're Dan Green, who's better? Who knows? Because that is subjective. Even in something that's as objective as having a number to point to, there are so many other factors that if you don't have a way to process where you're at within yourself and the scope of your own ability and capability, you will never be satisfied if your goal is only to be the best at something, because you can't attain it without any question. Again, that's my opinion, that's my worldview on it, but I prefer to spend my time improving the self and becoming the best version of myself that I can, because I don't share, so I don't have someone else's genetics, I don't have their history and their structure of life experiences. This is the body I have and the experience I have, and I share it with the people that I am around, and that's just enough for me. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was informative and not too overly passionate and freaking you out or anything. I'll get back to answering the other questions in the next episode of this Q&A. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate you all. And Sid, again, this is not directed at you in any negative way. This is just addressing those issues. So thank you again, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.